Welcome to the Group Home Riches Podcast. If you have the desire to be your own boss, create your own schedule, and become financially free while at the same time helping people in need, then you've come to the right place. At GroupHomeRiches.com, we teach people exactly like yourself how to get started in the group home business. And on this podcast, you're going to hear their stories firsthand. So today we have veterans of the business, new to the Gold Course. I'm glad they found us. They actually reached out to me to let me know they wanted to chat with us. I checked out their website. I have a ton of questions for them. It looks like they are kind of doing a similar business to what we do. I think they just figured it out like our founder Andy did. So we have Dave and Felicia with Uncle Dave's Housing with us today. Guys, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
So we just started chatting for the first time, via email and a little before we started recording. So let's just hop into it from the beginning. The typical question I ask people either via email or on our coaching calls, and I'll ask you guys, what brought you to this business in the first place? What made you want to even look up how to start a group home?
Can I tell?
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to tell. So I was working in a law firm as a real estate attorney, and I had a client call me saying that none of her tenants were paying rent. And then as I got to talking with her, I realized that she had like 10 people living in one house. And this is way back in 2009, probably. So I decided it didn't really sound like she needed a lawyer or an unlawful detainer with only 5 out of the 10 people not paying rent all under one roof. So I decided to send over my husband, at the time fiance. The two of us, we met in drug rehab treatment back in 2006.
Yeah.
Right. He had just gotten out of prison for a white collar crime, and he got out of prison, and all he always says, just had a shoebox.
I came out of prison with a shoebox, and I went right into rehab and spent 9 months in rehab where they sent me back to school, and I got my KDAC license for drug and alcohol care, in which I went to work at Tarzana Treatment Center, and I saw all these people leaving the center and not having a place to go. So,
so I sent him over to one of my clients, and he saw that she was running basically a group home, transitional housing for men. Some of them had lived there a long time, and she was losing her houses to foreclosure, and they felt they didn't have to pay the rent because she didn't own the houses yet. She still did because foreclosures had not happened yet. And the way I ended up in treatment center though too is I had done meth all through law school, and became addicted to it. And so that's where we met. And
so anyway, so this Patty, she just needed some muscles. She needed someone to come in and say, hey, you guys need to pay your rent or get out. And we got them all current with the rent. And she says, Dave, you're doing a great job. I've got 4 or 5 houses. Why don't you rent them for me? Which I did. And that's how I learned the business. We were with her for about a year. And then I said, Felicia, why don't we, start a house and see what we can do? So we leased a 3-unit apartment building with a house in front that currently holds 50 men. And
it's right in the hood of Los Angeles, right by the projects, and lots of gangs in this area. And it used to be a drug infested apartment building, and we took it over
and we cleaned it up. And now the police, they don't have to come by as often anymore. And then we went up to Pasadena, which was a big mistake because it's called the NIMBY law, not in my backyard. And
the city attorney came after us. We'll tell you, but in Pasadena, we started sober livings, and we did co-ed there. And we started one house on Summit and then another house on Ashtabula. And, they were nice houses, and, people loved them. And it was great for everybody coming out of drug treatment center to go into a nice, clean, safe, sober living environment. But then when the city attorney came after us, they basically, the bottom line was you can't have more than 6 people that are not blood related under one roof.
Perfect.
And they were saying,
which is totally
we'll unpack that and the logistics
Okay.
behind it and the fair. Like I'm sure you're going to get into the fair housing laws and things like that.
Yeah.
So this is, you guys have actually dealt with this. So that's awesome.
We had 200 misdemeanors charged against both of us.
Wow.
Each, or 200 each.
187.
And we remember somebody seeing an article in the Pasadena newspaper saying that we were arrested, and we hadn't been arrested yet, so we hid out in a hotel. We didn't know what was going on, and we ended up, we fought them for a long time. They tried to get us.
Protest in front of City Hall.
Yeah, that's
but
right.
You just can't beat the government. We didn't have the funds. We didn't have
Newport Beach was also going through a constitutional law, which is basically, it's unconstitutional, the law. We knew it, but
I always tell people, know your rights, but choose your battles too. So
exactly.
So
we didn't want to spend millions of dollars in attorney's fees.
That's what I do in marriage.
Let's rewind a little bit. So Dave, you were getting out of, or you were in rehab, right?
Yes.
And you got a lead through one of Felicia's clients that was basically just a real estate person, but she was operating, group homes, basically, right?
Yes.
Stuffing people into the homes.
It was horrible the way that she ran it.
So she was a slumlord kind of.
Yeah,
exactly.
She wouldn't go in it, and the places were a mess.
Foodies.
She brought you on to be what would we call like our operational manager. So
yeah, exactly. Housing coordinator.
Okay, that's what you guys call it. Yeah. So basically,
nowadays,
you were the person to kind of run the day-to-day activities, and worst case scenario, you have to evict somebody, which is
done it.
We've never had to evict anybody. It's called a guest agreement, where they give up their tenant rights.
Yeah, same thing.
Over 10 years.
In over 10 years, we've been taken to small claims court, and it's always held up. We've never lost one case yet.
You guys,
I've never lost. I have 100%.
You're bringing up so many of our main points that we try to cover in our content and in the Gold Course. So I love it.
That's why I contacted you guys.
We have one similar included. We just call it the license agreement / tenant agreement. But
same thing.
Dave is basically. Yeah. So, we always tell everybody, hey, you're not leasing the property. It's similar to a hotel, right?
Correct.
That's like your check-in card. And Dave was just the stern management type person to come.
Muscle guy.
Yeah. So, it's just same thing as a hotel, totally different demographic. But if like a manager comes to the hotel room and tells a guest like, hey, you got to leave, 99% of people are going to leave. Okay. So
we've had people call the police on us. You can't do this. We're tenants. And the minute the police come out, we show them our guest agreement where they actually sign a paper saying that they're a guest, they're not a tenant. And the minute the police see that, okay, you got to go.
It's held up every time.
We've never had a problem with that.
Once since COVID.
Worst case, have the police ever been like, oh, we're not going to deal with this. It's a civil matter.
One time, and it was because of COVID in the very beginning when there was a stay in shelter. The police said, well, where are they supposed to go? They have to stay in shelter. And eventually the police got them out. But at first, they weren't going.
Brandon, we house 165 men every night. We have 6 locations, all duplexes and apartment buildings. It's quite a big operation. And we've never had a problem, when we tell someone to leave. We mean it, and a lot of times I'll just go up and I'll pack their stuff up and throw it on the sidewalk, and I'll say, I'll see you later. They'll call the police come out, I'll show them the guest agreement, and off they go. So it's never been an issue for us.
Never once filed an unlawful detainer, which in California is the eviction lawsuit.
That's the worst thing I want to do is kick somebody out on the streets, but we got to keep our houses safe and clean, and it's all independent living, but there's no drugs or alcohol allowed on or off property. That's one thing that we're very strict on. So if someone comes in loaded, off they go. We're not going to tolerate that. It just jeopardizes the community and the safety of others.
So this is, folks, you've probably heard us talk about it. You've heard it in our content. I love hearing it from other folks that have gone through it as well. So
yeah,
this
we've
is
gone through plenty of it.
this is one of the worst case scenarios that people are worried about, but we have these systems in place to kind of minimize the bad stuff that can happen. So Andy has a similar agreement. It's probably, the same thing, just in legalese, right? But he has had to go to court like 2 or 3 times over his, almost 20 years.
never.
But each
For an
time
eviction, he had to go to court.
they tried to take him to court, and each time the license
yeah.
agreement
Okay.
held up. So
Yep, same here.
Same, we've been taken to court too, and it always holds up.
And folks, just to reiterate, these guys are in Los Angeles, California, not known to be the most business friendly area in the country. not the most, Wild West, no regulations kind of area, right? Probably in
We have a lot
opposite.
of regulations. We're in rent control too. There's rent control in LA. So tenants are, have all the rights in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And even though some of our properties are in rent control,
it's never been an issue.
Guest agreement, license agreement, it's a right to use the bed is the bottom line. And that's what it comes down to. And we can get them out.
Another thing I wanted to kind of rewind on is when you guys started out, it wasn't like you guys didn't have a ton of funds. You didn't go get like a big government grant or anything like that. You glossed over it, but it's one of the things that many of our members and kind of new people trying to get things going struggle with. That you just lease the property.
Well, in California, property prices are really expensive. So when you say, somebody can buy a house for $100,000-$200,000, that's not possible in California.
No way.
Especially a duplex or an apartment building. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So we tried to buy a build. Yeah,
Yeah.
In the beginning, we did try. I sent David to a foreclosure sale, but there were the sharks there with, the cashier's checks for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And, just by word of mouth, somebody said, hey, we just remodeled this apartment building. You interested in leasing it? And we went and looked at it and we go, this is really big. And we weren't planning on such a big place. We were just looking for a house to start with, but we did it.
And we took a chance, and
we opened up one part of the apartment building at a time. We did it slowly.
Yep.
And it filled up. And I mean,
then we went to our next duplex and like I say, now we have 6 buildings,
houses, whatever you want to call them. We lease them all.
Yeah, we lease them.
And all our landlords know what we do. Some are great. The landlord of our first place, he's not so nice. We're responsible for all the maintenance and everything, and the building is literally falling apart.
Triple net lease that's costing us a fortune, but still, Brandon, we do this to help others. Yeah, there is some money into it. We're not doing it.
Make a good profit.
We're not doing it for nothing. We do make money on it, but basically, we're here to help people. And if someone comes in, I got a really big heart. If they don't have all the rents.
He lets them in.
I let them in anyway.
Pro bono beds.
And it always pays off because 9 times out of 10 they'll come up with a rent in a month or 2 months. And I have a policy. I don't turn people away. And we're very well known. I can go down 5th and Julian downtown where it's Tent City,
Skid Row,
and walk down there, and everybody will wave to me. Hey, Uncle Dave, what's going on? Because I'm very well known. Why? Because I love to house people. I love to put a roof over their head and give them hope, as I was given hope at one time. You need a roof over your head. You need a cell phone to start your life over again, so you can start going out and then looking for a job. And one thing that pays off is, years later, someone will come back to me or I'll get a letter and say, thanks, Uncle Dave, for giving me this opportunity. Because of you, I started my life over again, and look where I am now.
We love hearing all the success stories. And I will tell you, when I worked for the law firm, I worked in downtown LA, and David would come have lunch with me, and we'd walk down Skid Row, and everybody would be, hi, Uncle Dave, because we worked with a lot of agencies. And I learned how to market Uncle Dave's housing, and I just loved how everybody did it. And just to show you, David said, I'm going to make this business so you can retire from work as a lawyer, because I wasn't the happiest practicing law. And in 2013, I retired as a lawyer, because in 3 years, we were making enough money to support ourselves and our way we live, our lifestyle. by housing people here in South Los Angeles.
It's
So
an amazing story.
Brandon, what we look for is we don't go for small houses. The minimum we have is a duplex that has 10 rooms and 6 bathrooms. And that's the minimum I'll do because you can make money there. I see a lot of people, have a 2 or 3 bedroom house and they expect to, make money on it. And you're not going to make money on a 2 or 3 bedroom house. You have to, in my thoughts, have a minimum 10 bedroom duplex in order to make it worthwhile for you.
To make it profitable.
I agree. I think a lot of people are kind of, what's the, is it penny wise, pound foolish? They're looking for like low startup costs. So they think like maybe a 2 or 3 bedroom will get them in the door. But then they don't realize.
You have a couple vacants and you have your utilities and you're in the hole already. You're not going to be, you're going to be losing money. Basically, Brandon, what I look for when I open a complex is location, location, location. Number one, it's got to be big enough to make it profitable, but it's got to be near a shopping center. It's got to be near bus lines, transportation.
Health centers, too.
It's got to be by food centers. It's got to be by medical centers. All these things I'll put together, and if it meets all the requirements, then we'll go for it. There's a lot of property leasing companies that have these duplexes here in Los Angeles, and there's plenty to pick from. So, we're at house number 6 now, and probably within a year, we'll have our 7th house.
We just keep wanting to help people.
Every house holds over 20 people, and that's 2 to maximum 3 people per room. I don't like, stuffing people in. And we have a manager at every house and an assistant manager.
And we have a maintenance guy too that goes around and fixes everything. And usually we like to fix our own stuff. And
we have a supervisor that goes around, including us. So, we take care of our houses. Our houses, the health department came by and couldn't even believe how spotless our places was. He gave us a great recommendation.
Yeah, LA Health Department told us we were the cleanest transitional house in LA he had seen, which really made us proud.
Well, if you are hands-on like you guys are and you care about your tenants and the properties, it's one of the advantages of this type of housing compared to rental properties that's kind of counterintuitive, right? Like you guys have hundreds of people in and out of your property, but you have way more control over the property. So you guys have
absolutely
correct
managers reporting there's not going to be deferred maintenance, right? It's not like
no,
absolutely not. We're on top of it right away.
Yeah.
Each night, each one of our managers sends us a nightly report of what happened during the daytime. If there's a crisis or someone's acting out, we'll be there within 10, 15 minutes. You got to keep up with the game.
We've learned how to do it right. Because we've made some big mistakes. We had the issue of bed bugs too. That was a big issue at one of our houses. And we bought the fans, the heaters, and then we even tented the place. And it wasn't until I had a good pest control company come out once a month, and I still pay $450 a month for the pest control, but it's worth it when we haven't had any bed bugs again, because the type of people we deal with bring them in. And we've just, we've learned the hard way on a lot of stuff. Like with the bed bugs, I would say we spent at least 20 grand trying to eradicate them.
Have you guys have you done any traditional rental properties or anything like that?
I have on my own, not through Uncle Dave's Housing, because we made Uncle Dave's Housing a nonprofit. And it being a nonprofit, we've learned how to cut our costs and everything, get a lot of even discounts and stuff.
Even with qualified tenants, you have nightmare stories. So I've dealt with bed bugs and deferred.
We've had ODs, people overdosing. We've had knives. We've had a gunfight, a gun go off at a property. Almost everything and anything. We've had the fire department, the zoning department, the health department, the city attorney. You name it, any government agency, environmental health. They've all been out to our properties. Even when back to the Pasadena, when we were dealing with the city attorney, David, once you tell him the story.
Here, let me transition into that because I have a question that's someone's just, they just recently looked up how to start a group home. They have a burning question on their mind, especially if they've been doing their research. So what type of licensing process did you guys need to go through in order to
You don't need a license.
Nope, zero. Exactly what you guys say.
There's no license required.
What?
Period.
A license? I
Yeah.
don't know what that word is.
So you guys are doing this like illegally, like off the records, or what's that like?
Legally, there
I
is
know.
You
no.
don't need, yeah.
You don't need a
You don't need,
license.
everybody's worried about, getting a license. You don't need one.
They
There's
are
talking
yeah.
about trying to make regulations and state laws for sober livings in California, but it's yet to happen. So like a sober living, a halfway house, only when you're dealing with the children or disabled people, perhaps, may you need a license. But for regular people,
Okay. Also,
don't.
too, Brandon, we deal with men only. We don't do females. We don't do couples. We don't do children. It's for men only.
Almost
know,
same. And he sticks to just single adults. So he
Yeah.
Yep.
does have
Yeah.
no
It's
co-eds.
the easier, softer way.
Well, it's where, it's just kind of the market in business terms. Just the majority of people that are in the need of this type of housing do tend to be single men. So,
And
So bottom line, Brandon, for me, the bigger the better. The bigger the house, the more people you can put in, the more profits to be made without overcrowding.
oh, and David's so great. When we go to look at a potential place to rent for an Uncle Dave's housing, he visually sees it. He goes to each room and can see where a bed can go, where a bunk bed should go. And he can count and he can do the numbers even before anybody's in there, before any furniture's in there, even before he signs the lease. He does the numbers. I can't see it. I'm not visual like that. But he's really good at finding a place.
It's here again, it's got to be profitable. We're not doing this for nothing. Here again, we're not going to be millionaires over it, but it's definitely good money. But
good lifestyle.
But Brandon, all I can say again is, a lot of people are going for a 2-3 bedroom house, and that's not going to happen. I don't care, with 2 or 3 people in the room, you're not going to be making money on a small house.
And even when you have a lot of vacancies too. There's been times when, for some reason, we've had some vacancies a little. Anytime I have over 10 vacancies, I get a little nervous. And we just get out there and start marketing to the agencies and people that place people into the houses, like the VA or the Volunteers of America or any other organization. There's lots. And
There's a ton of them.
We've made presentations in front of the parole officers, the probation department. We've made so many presentations at coalition meetings, at
emergency hospital.
It's called like the Coordinated Entry System in Los Angeles. And those are the big agencies that get the government money and pass it out to the little people like us. And we made presentations there and just told them what we're all about.
So and basically, Brandon, you want to market before you get a house. You want to make sure, before I open a new house, what I do is I swing by all my other houses and give them $50, $100 off for the first couple months just to get them over there. So I got a cash flow that's immediate, where I don't even have to wait 30 days for it to start filling it up. We just opened our last house about 4 months ago, and it's
filled up in 30 days.
Filled up in 30 days, and I got 30 people living in there. So.
Yeah. But you guys talk about also the importance of marketing even before you sign the lease or buy a house.
You see me smiling and laughing here because it's like Dave didn't go through the course, but it's like, Dave could have written
reinforcing what you're teaching and prove that it works.
I've looked over, your gold course, and it's very good. It's very good. It's down to earth and exactly what we do, and I've listened to a lot of podcasts. And the only thing that I've noticed is that people are going for too small of a house and expecting to make money on it. And you hear again, you have a couple vacants, you're going to be losing money on it.
So let me address that, because that's what I wanted. The penny wise, pound foolish. So people are looking to save. They're looking to rent the smallest place because they think it's the lowest startup costs. But there's not a big difference between, if you're in a neighborhood. Most of the houses are going to be 3 bedrooms, right? But if you can find a 4 or a 5 bedroom with a converted garage,
do 4 and 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Brandon, here again,
minimum.
You want to make sure that you're zoned right.
you don't want to go to where there's a homeowners association. You never want to deal with a homeowners
Bingo.
association.
Yeah.
You don't want to stick out like a sore thumb in the neighborhood because, like he mentioned before, the NIMBY, not in my backyard. You don't want neighbors complaining about you.
I want
But-
apartment buildings on both sides of me, or at least on the block where, you know, they're used to having traffic coming in and out, not in the residential area where, you know, it's going to be a big sign saying, hey, you know, what's going on here.
So we do operate in residential areas, probably just because, probably like just the layout of the cities we operate are probably a little different than LA, right?
Yeah, well, you know, we do operate in residential too. David is incorrect there, but we're careful what neighborhoods we go into.
Exactly. So, and I learned through talking with the lawyer last week that even if you are in a neighborhood that has a HOA, or like you guys were in was it Pasadena or Newport Beach?
Right,
Correct.
it had the civil law that
Yeah,
says
even though you have the federal laws on your case and you probably could challenge it, it's, you know, why not operate in, we like lower to middle income neighborhoods where there's a bunch of rentals anyways, and they're not going to be like a HOA, you know, up.
It's just one problem to avoid. Make
Avoid
it
the
easier on
problems.
yourself.
Know your
Exactly.
rights, but try to avoid the problems. So let's get into that. So you guys expanded into it. I know Newport Beach is like pretty upscale neighborhood. Right?
No, we didn't go there. That's
Not
where
there.
I grew up, but
What'd you call
but
it?
in Newport Beach,
You went into a not
NIMBY.
in my backyard. Like NIMBY.
Exactly.
NIMBY laws.
Exactly.
And there are NIMBY laws. A lot of cities across America have laws that say you can't have more than 6 people under one roof that are not blood related. I mean, so if a family has 10 kids, fine. But if a sober living that lives as a family, because they do chores together, they go to meetings together, they shop and cook together, and they live as a family, but they're not blood related. So it's illegal in some cities, such as Pasadena. And Pasadena went after every sober living, basically. And we were like the first. And they used us as an example, probably because we were the best and most well known. And they just, you know, we fought them for about 2-3 years. And luckily, we walked away from Pasadena because I didn't want to spend millions on attorney's fees fighting constitutional law.
You can't fight City Hall.
And, you know, we paid probably $2,000 fines each. And we walked away and we just said our first house was in South Los Angeles. Let's stick around there because Pasadena was a lot far. And we put all our houses, I mean, probably within a 10-mile radius. And even in the 10-mile radius, there's so many transitional houses here. And we get calls all the time from other operators who are saying, what are you guys doing? You know, how can I help fill up my house, or why am I not making any money? And that's where I want to start. And I want to help go into existing homes and do so-called like audit and see where they can cut costs or where they can market, what type of marketing they need, whether, I mean, we started in the very beginning just with Craigslist, and now there's Facebook Marketplace. There's so many places online to market your house and to fill it up. And I will say the best thing though is word of mouth through the agencies. We get calls, probably 10 calls a day from agencies about they have clients.
Looking for placement for clients. And here again, they haven't heard of us before and they're so happy that we're out there, and they start feeding us clients, and then we build a rapport with them, and it works. It works. You know, it's instead of waiting for the business to come to you, you have to go out and get the business. And that's the bottom line.
You hear it from us every day, folks. So
exactly, you got to do the work to make it, you know, and after a while it gets a lot easier. It's like getting candy from a baby or whatever you said, and it does get easy, but in the beginning there is a lot of work to be done. You have to make a name for yourself.
That's the grind. You know, that's what I do with our coaching clients. Most of the time is just getting them to understand the basic principles, really just getting them confident enough to get out there and start marketing, kind of reiterating, hey, you know, start getting these connections before you get a house. You know, why buy a property or take on a new payment if you don't know who to call for tenants. So that's what
exactly. So let me give you, for instance. So we did some marketing a couple months ago, and I said, Felicia, you do this one, and she walks in and says, can I leave a flyer from Uncle Dave's? And this is not to embarrass you, honey.
So go ahead.
So anyway, so I said, excuse me. I said, who's in charge of housing here? Well, before you know it, we're in front of a lady called Brenda,
the head person,
who houses probably 60 people.
No, what it is they had 100 guys at the Mission. It's at a Mission in Skid Row, but they can only stay there for 6 months. And at the end of 6 months, where do they go? Right. They need housing to go to, and that was where we came in. And she's like, "Thank God you guys walked in. We've been looking for housing
for a place like you." So she senses a lot of people right now. So it's about being aggressive with your marketing also. It's not just dropping off a flyer and then having it sit on the desk or in the trash can. You have to get in front of the person and create a relationship with them, which I love to do. I love to talk. I'm a great salesman.
He's a born salesman.
And I love my properties, and I love what I do, and I love helping people, and that's the bottom line.
And I will tell you, years ago, the way I did it, because I'm not really a salesperson, but I sat down and I made a list of all the agencies in Los Angeles, because we didn't really know where to go at first, but I did my research and I called them and I said, who's in charge of housing? Do you guys need housing? Who deals with your clients? I had to ask who their contact person was. And I made a list of all these people, all these agencies, and I gave it to David, and he went right up to their front door and talked to them and basically explained what we are. And housing will always be a great need, and especially after this national eviction moratorium wears off. I mean, this group housing, transitional housing, it's the way of the future. It's so affordable and so easy for people to live. I mean, I hear how seniors want to live together nowadays. I mean, it's just going to explode. So I think what you're doing and teaching people how to operate and start these group homes is fabulous. I mean, and we've been doing it, and I know we could have 30 Uncle Dave's housings and still fill them up every day here in Los Angeles.
Like I said, you guys are in the ground zero of the crisis. And, thank God they have people like you guys in there. So before we started recording, we kind of talked about like the agencies and stuff like that. They're paying for their clients, which are your tenants, correct? Most of the time?
Some agencies are. Some have funding, some don't. But there are, for example, I know in California, if you're on general relief, which any poor person, any unhoused, any homeless person can get, it's through the Department of Social Services. They also have a housing program. So we get the guys that are on GR and we get them to a housing caseworker in the Department of Social Services, and they pay for their housing until they either get a job or until they get their SSI, their Social Security supplemental benefits. And
in Los Angeles, it's called the pilot program, and we do a lot with that.
And then some agencies get the rapid rehousing funding, which is from the government, which is the Los Angeles Housing Authority, and they pass it to the coordinated entry system. I know it's confusing. They pass it to the big agencies, and the big agencies pass it down to us. And then others agencies just have grants or funds.
And then we have a lot of people on Social Security, or a lot of people that are just working, that don't make a lot of money, that can't afford their own place. And this is where we fit in.
We make it so easy for them, $550 a month or $600 a month, and they don't have to pay any utilities. We take care of all their bills. We give them TVs, Wi-Fi, furnished room, fresh sheets when they move in. And it's just, no matter where they've been, whether they're on the streets, in jail, in prison, or broke up with had a fight with the wife and need a safe, clean place to live, come on over. They paid their first month's rent and no security deposit. We don't even charge security deposits because we don't want to have to deal with giving it back or anything.
And there's other avenues, people coming to Los Angeles that don't want to live in a hotel for a couple of weeks because it's expensive that way. So we're affordable in that sense too. When they're moving to a new location, until they find out where they want to live or what they want to do, they come live with us. And some people just never leave.
Broke it. Like I said, it sounds like exactly what Andy's doing, except on a different coast. So it's beautiful to hear. So,
Yeah.
You're in Texas, right?
yeah, we operate throughout Central Texas. So
Okay.
we talked about the agencies and stuff, and it did sound confusing. And the people that they're just starting out, they're probably like, man, what are they talking about? How do we find these people? Guys,
It's very simple. It's very simple.
there's
UncleDavesHousing.org.
well, like the rapid rehousing and stuff like that. I just want to kind of go back to that to reiterate. There's
Okay,
there's multiple billions of dollars that goes into those like agencies that Felicia talked about, and they're needing to house people. They're not very good at marketing though. That's why you guys have probably never heard of them. So it's kind of that's what we teach people how to do, and what you guys learn how to do is to like find the right people to talk to and market to. And when you do find them, don't just send one email and wait for them to call you. It's
or
like
drop off a flyer as I
Yeah.
did.
Brandon,
It's like-
closed mouths don't get fed. You got to be aggressive.
yeah. I come from a marketing background, and I always tell people, hey, the 7-touch rule applies to everything. You got to talk to people, market to them. They got to see you and hear from you on average 7 times before somebody uses a new product or new service. So
Absolutely. And here again, when their clients come in, they report back to them, hey, this is a great place. And we got a lot of more clients coming in because of what they're telling their caseworkers. Hey, this is a great place. It's clean. It's well run. It's well managed.
Your reputation is very important.
I would definitely recommend this place. And that's also helped too.
Again, marketing rule, guys. Word of mouth is the best. So you got to get your foot in the door through all the other stuff, but word of mouth is easily the best marketing channel.
It takes time, but it's worth it. And the more you do at the onset in the beginning, the easier it is, faster.
So guys, I could probably talk to you guys all day. Great energy.
I know.
I'm glad you guys reached out, but I got to get running soon, and I'm sure you guys have probably gotten a couple calls since being on here.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
as the pork rind guy goes by us. Here, wait, you've just got to see this. See what's going by us right now?
Yep.
See that?
You'll probably have a flower guy come in here soon, and I'm surprised no one's knocked on the window asking for change.
Well, there's been no gunshots in 30 minutes, so that's good.
All right.
Brandon, it was great talking with you.
Pleasure talking,
Brandon. Anytime, UncleDavesHousing.org, if people want to look in. Then I'm also in Los Angeles going to be auditing houses through, it's called SOSHousing.org. And they can go to either website to find us too. And I highly recommend, if you haven't started a group home, do I've looked at all the Gold Course stuff. It's great.
So
just remember, the bigger, the better.
Yes, guys, don't go get a 2-bedroom or a studio just because they're cheap. And spend like just a minute or two or however long you guys want. Tell us about like the auditing thing that you're starting up.
Well, a lot of people may get a house, even if it's big enough, but they're still not making a profit. So there's ways to cut costs, cut the utilities, and there's ways to add beds or just to save money. And we want to go in and do that. A lot of people just put one person into a room when you should put a bunk bed in there and get an extra $600 a month, and that will cover the cost. I mean, because you always want to know what your expenses are for each house and also what your income's going to be. And if you've got 10 people in there at 500, that's 5,000 a month income. But if your lease is 2,500 and your utilities are 1,000, that leaves you with 1,500 net. And then there's always additional expenses that may come up, such as like when we had pest control. So I want to go and help other houses where people live together under one roof, whatever kind of setting it is, disabled, children, assisted living, transitional, halfway. I mean, the list goes on and on as to the different types of houses. and help them cut costs, save money, and help them market and keep their beds filled.
So this is basically like in-person training for folks who are in the LA area.
Yeah, some consulting in person so that we can go look at the house and see what they're doing and help people here in Los Angeles.
So guys, you may hear that there's no shortcuts in business. False. If you pay experts like these guys to come and check it out, glance over, look over your business, you just purchased a shortcut, okay? You'll probably save yourself months of expenses
And aggravation.
And years of mistakes.
Yes.
We don't want them doing the mistakes that we've done.
And we've done them all.
Yeah. You can learn from your mistakes the hard way, or you could listen to people that have gone through it. So choose wisely. So tell us one more time where folks can reach out to you, and then we'll drop the links in the description on the podcast as well.
Sure. For the transitional housing, it's Uncle Dave's housing.org, and that's Dave's with an S. And then for the auditing and help with your existing home, it's soshousing.org.
Awesome. Guys, it was so good talking to you. We'll have to
It was great talking with you. Let's